Welcome back to Trading 360. I'm Sam Vardis in for Diane King-Hall. It's time now for the big three stocks, three charts, three trades. Ben Watson will take us through the charts. He's sitting here beside me, and here to take us through the trades is Aquiles Larrea, who's the founder and CEO of Larrea Wealth Management. Great to see you both, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Aquiles, let's just start with you and get a big picture take on the markets today. It's looking a little bit patchy out there. No doubt lots of tariff headlines to digest. The jobs report came in okay, seems to suggest things aren't falling off a cliff just yet. But what are your takeaways so far?
Yeah, a whole much ado about nothing at this particular point. Remember, we are in the summer right now. A lot of people are just not on the table doing a bunch of trading at this particular point. So any moves, whether it be up or down, could take the market up or down in that particular form. But we feel that before October, we're going to see a significant run up in the market. We've got some good reports upcoming, and hopefully that'll start to turn things around. We don't believe that the market is heading towards a recession at this particular point. We also think that the tariffs trade impact at this point is negligible. So we're going to have to see what's going to go on going forward.
Yeah, a bit of chop and churn certainly has been the expectation for the month of August, particularly what is seasonally a weaker month for sure. Talking of what is popping and dropping, as you say, up and down, Microsoft down just fractionally today. Talk us through your trade for this one.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Microsoft is still one of the dominators in the industry, and they've kind of reinvented themselves with the AI component. They are actually one of the biggest in terms of the AI component. It's being a big another part of dominating in their particular space, bringing them additional revenues. We see significant growth happening, looking to have a double-digit return this year again, but we think that's kind of conservative at this point, actually. We're looking above 12% in the next 12 to 18 months. We also think that this opens the door for more strategic acquisitions in the AI space, so we're keeping our eyes open as far as that. They may go into other spaces at this particular point, but who knows? What we're looking for right now is a significant double-digit growth in the next 12 to 18 months. We also think that it should be part of any portfolio core holding.
Okay, thanks for that. Let's get over to Ben now and take us through the charts on this one. What are you seeing?
Well, I like the way you said it, Sam, that pop and drop, because I think that's exactly in the shorter term. Aquiles is taking kind of a longer term perspective here. The shorter term view on this last earnings announcement, you saw a significant move to the upside, runs into resistance around that 556 mark. We see it settling back into kind of the top edge of the earnings gap there at 523, and that's where it seems to be kind of landing at this point. Sentiment's falling off a little bit. You see kind of that momentum slowing just a little bit. And that's kind of the nature of this particular stock. You go back to the last earnings announcement in late April, early May, and again, there was a tone change. Big gap to the upside. It rallies strongly without a lot of momentum, though. I mean, you see these candles being fairly small, but it was upward trending the whole time. Now, as other leaders have started to emerge in the space, this might be the piggy bank that those investors are rotating out of in the short term to put money into some of those leaders. But looking for that support at 523, maybe down around that 488 mark symmetrically, could be kind of the near-term perspective here on Microsoft.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you say, every chart really tells a story, and particularly off the back of that earnings report. I mean, they set the bar so high as far as CapEx, really driven by Azure. But as many analysts have been sort of suggesting, it's like for every dollar of CapEx, it's going to have some sort of knock-on effect. So maybe to your point about some of that rotation. But I do want to get to another company, and that is Apple now, Aquiles, because this has obviously been in the headlines over the last 24 hours. It is popping by about 3% today. No doubt off the back of the olive branch, we've seen a bit of a art of the deal in full play here over at the White House, where Trump has said, right, Tim Cook, you invest $100 billion more here and we'll give you an exemption on some tariffs. So how are you looking at that?
Yeah, before this, the stock was under significant pressure. We didn't see a whole bunch of performance-wise things happening. All of a sudden, Tim Cook says, hey, we're going to invest more money in the United States. We're going to see that investment totaling $100 billion or more. And that is something that we think is significant. And getting into the good graces of the current administration is not a bad thing for any type of company. But more importantly, we think the stock, because it's been under pressure so long, we're going to face some resistance, even though it's up today. We're going to face some resistance going forward, but we're looking at a double-digit return within the next 12 months. And again, we think that's conservative because we think that the stock has a lot of room still left to run. We also think that another thing with this particular stock, there could be more acquisitions in its future. They haven't really figured out the space that they're going into going forward, but they have so much cash. They have a huge cash position that they can go and acquire a company in the AI space and be somewhat like a Microsoft per se, but they're not heading in that particular direction just yet. We also think that, beyond a 10% move to the upside in the next 12 months, we think that Apple is going to continue to dominate their particular space, and the fandom behind Apple has not changed. So we look forward for some great growth going forward in the next 12 months.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting, isn't it? Because it really has been an underperformer, particularly if you look at the Mag 7. But then, that earnings report with regards to hinting at M&A, like you pointed out, that they're probably willing to take somebody on as far as artificial intelligence, where they've sort of been seen as behind the 8 ball there, certainly seems to have helped. And also, I suppose, Ben, also the tariffs were an overhang that seems to have maybe lifted off the stock. What are you seeing on the chart there?
Well, you're absolutely right, I think, in terms of that overhang. And that makes me think of, so my son was a competitive swimmer in high school, and one of the favorite things that they did was they'd take the kickboards that they'd train with and hold them under the water, right, and then let them pop back up. That's kind of what's going on here from a technical analysis perspective, is that buoyancy of the stock underneath. That support level has been rising. It's been running into that resistance, which has been really that will they or won't they suffer from the tariff impact. Now that is released, it's come up to the surface, broken through that resistance at 216, it's running into the 200 period moving average, which may be that kind of getting to the surface and then maybe going sideways, because you've got another level of resistance up here around 226 or so. A little bit of a divergence when it comes to sentiment. The RSI reflective of that pop above that overhang, but the MACD still slowing a little bit, so it may again just simply be kind of that sideways grind here. But there is the potential outside to go up to maybe those previous highs around 261, but that's a ways off, perhaps.
Okay, I love that analogy of the little kickboard under the surface there. I mean, you just got to be really strong to make sure it doesn't fly away and hit somebody in the head, right? But anyway, we're sticking with the whole tech theme. We've got another cloud services company to look at as well. Aquiles, talk us through what you're seeing as far as Kingsoft is concerned.
Yeah, Kingsoft is one of these companies. They're a cloud computing company out of China. And what we see there is a huge potential with the Chinese market and the Asian market as a whole. The stock has been under significant pressure. I mean, when I first came out and recommended it on this show, it was around $17, about $14 right now. And, has been doing a lot of sideways work. But more importantly, we still believe in the growth potential of this company. We could see just from the 14, even if it went from 14 back up to 17, we're going to see a significant growth there. We believe that this particular company has legs to grow. There's a lot of room here, and could easily reach the $18 mark in an 18-month time frame or so. But we want to put the buyer beware label on it. Chinese companies have been sporadic in their growth. So sometimes there's ethics problems, there's currency problems and the like. So you're not going to bet the farm with this. You're going to put some risk capital towards it, and you should be rewarded if you're a patient investor, in my opinion.
Okay. To Aquiles' point, I mean, Ben, it's been a bit sideways action there. Still up 36% or so year to date. What are you seeing here? Yeah,
one of the great things about technical analysis is not that its ability to predict the future, which it can't, but its ability to give us a framework around making decisions. And so for an investor looking at this from that sideways perspective and saying, where would there be clear empirical evidence that the price is moving higher? you can draw those lines of support and resistance. And I think in this case, looking at this and saying, if price breaks above 16, that's a resistance break, then looking at making that move higher. And so you can put some clarity to this. Momentum and sentiment both moving slightly higher, momentum lagging a little bit behind that RSI sentiment gauge here. But you do have an earnings announcement that's coming up just over the horizon here that could add some clarity to any moves outside of this 16 resistance and maybe 10.5 on the support side.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for getting us through the technicals on that one. So we've looked across the space as far as tech is concerned. Microsoft, Apple, Kingsoft, thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time today and taking us through those companies.